Program funding for the Organic Odyssey was provided by the California Certified Organic Farmers Foundation, as well as the Transition to Organic Partnership Program. Visit their web pages or social media for all their amazing content and guidance on everything organic. Support for the Organic Odyssey is provided in part by the Grimm Family Center for Organic Production and Research at Cal Poly. For more information or to support the center, please visit organic.calpoly.edu. That's organic.calpoly.edu for the Grimm Family Center for Organic Production and Research at Cal Poly. Support for the Organic Odyssey is provided in part by AgCom Central. Visit AgCom Central on twitch.tv or youtube.com for all content ag-related. That's AgCom Central on twitch.tv or youtube.com for AgCom Central.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Organic Odyssey. I'm your host, Madison Jasso.
And I'm a co-host, Able Yu.
We have a special guest today here with us in the studio. We have Dr. Matt Grisham.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everyone again.
And on Zoom, we have another guest with us, Blake Alexander.
Hello, great to be here.
Thank you, Blake.
Today, we will be talking about Alexander Family Farms and their journey to get to where they are today and their commitment to regenerative farming. We also want to touch on the fact that they found their niche in A2A2 cows and organic milk and the challenges that they could possibly face with organic certifications. Okay, Blake, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about the Alexander Family Farms organic journey and how you got into the position that you are in today?
Sure. That's a long loaded question, but I'll just try to hit some highlights. So my wife and I both grew up in California dairy business. Me in the north, I grew up in Ferndale, California, in Humboldt County. And then Stephanie grew up in Chino on a dairy farm down in Southern California. We actually met at Cal Poly San Luis, and we've been together 40 years. And we moved to this area 32 years ago. So this is now 100 miles north of where I grew up in Humboldt County. We're now up in Del Norte County, right up on the Oregon border, right on the coast. So we can hear the waves out our back door, and our ranch is only 3 miles from Oregon. And we've been organic up here for about 25 years. We've raised 5 kids here, and the oldest 3 are married and working for us. And we actually have 7 grandkids.
Wow. How much are you guys committed to regenerative farming?
Well, we're fully committed. We we have been kind of farming with organic matter in mind for 30 some years. A friend of mine, John Schneider, who used to be our agronomist, kind of explained to me about the benefits of organic matter in building soil and building organic matter in soil, and the water holding capacity that comes with that, as well as the just nutritional benefits and having that sponge in the soil. And so we've been kind of working our grazing practices around growing larger green plants above ground, which means that you're growing deeper roots and building soil as you eat it off with cows. Those roots either slough off and become organic matter, or stored up energy gets back into rapid regrowth. And so both things always happen. And then as we started understanding and hearing about the term regenerative maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we were intrigued, and it seems to be now, I would just define it as a new word to describe an old system that I'm going to say our creator gave us, which is kind of farming in harmony with nature, paying attention to biology in the soil, paying attention to all the cycles, the carbon cycle, water, air, and all the nutrient cycling through the soil, through biology, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, microarthropods, things like that, nematodes. And so once we became aware of that, and then kind of the the concept of regenerative came out, we actually became the very first certified regenerative farm in the United States by two different groups. And that really isn't a goal that we set out to do. It just kind of happened. That happened about 4 years ago or so. And again, regenerative is just a new word to explain an old concept, which is farming in harmony with nature and trying to minimize the use of pesticides, plastics, and chemicals, fertilizers, things like that. And I think I'm really excited about that because of the potential for sequestering carbon worldwide in land base is huge.
I find it really fascinating that you mentioned that you and your wife met at Cal Poly. I feel like Alexander Family Farms is a prime example of what Cal Poly, of a product of Cal Poly students.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
all five of our children went to Cal Poly. And
Wow.
Wow.
yeah, there was one year when our oldest son stayed and got his MBA. And so we had four of our kids at Cal Poly 1 year. That was
Wow.
crazy.
That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. For the next topic, we want to get into some of the facts. With that being said, can you please tell us a little bit about the science behind A2 milk?
Sure. So we learned about A2 milk in a book that was written called The Devil in the Milk by Keith Woodford. He's from New Zealand, and he wrote this book in 07, 08. We probably read it in 08. And for us, it was a big aha moment that we finally understood why there's consumers out there that I've known about my whole life that can drink goat's milk, but they couldn't drink cow's milk. And that didn't make sense to us. And so once we learned about the A1 gene, which is referred to as the devil in the milk, it's a mutated gene. So there's a 209 chain amino acid, and at intersection number 66, 67, there's a histidine where there's supposed to be a proline. And so that's what makes this a mutated gene. Then because of the proline there, it breaks off this little chain of 7 that they refer to as beta casein morphine and BCM, and that doesn't digest in most people's bodies, and it just floats around and causes issues. And it's as common as when you first put milk in your mouth and the phlegmy feeling you might get is an immediate reaction to that mutated gene, if you will. And so that's why dairy causes mucus and then later on downstream, tummy aches and whatever. And so a lot of people around the world believe that they're lactose intolerant, meaning that they're can't digest the milk sugar. And that doesn't make sense because all mammal milk has lactose in it. All mammal milk is A2. Yet we've got this mutated gene in the dairy cow that's on the protein side. And so it's the protein that has changed that is making people's digestive issue not, flare up because of eating dairy. It's not the casein, it's not the milk sugar. I'm sorry, it's not the lactose, it's not the milk sugar. And the common sense test for me is that most of us were breastfed by mama and all around the world, and mama's milk is A2 with lactose in it, and there's no lactose issues in babies. And so it just points to common sense that it's this mutated gene in the protein of dairy that is causing the issue.
So Blake, it sounds like this is is this a result of the breeding programs for cows then? And it's so in terms of your solution, is that you're using a different breed of cow or how does this work?
Yes, to your question in general, it is a result of breeding and selection. I only can imagine that the A1 mutated gene got into the dairy cattle maybe 1,000 years ago, because it's prevalent in quite a few countries across quite a few breeds, and almost all the breeds we use here in the United States. The Guernseys has less than the Jerseys, and the Jerseys have slightly less than the Holsteins. And we've tested probably 30,000 animals, and I kind of believe we tested more animals than a lot of folks. And we had to send samples to New Zealand because it was the only lab in the world that could do it starting, say, 10 years ago. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there that it's a breed thing. It's not a breed thing. It's a individual cow thing. And so we do a DNA test on all of our female offspring and determine if they received an A1 or an A2 gene from each of their parents. And so the ones we like to keep, the ones that we bottle up in our branded product are cows that received A2 from both parents. It comes back from the lab that way, and that's why we labeled it on our milk that way. It's a little easier to explain. The options for a cow, sometimes they're A2, A1, and that means that 50% of their milk is digestible and 50% is less digestible. And then there's the option of A1, which is all their milk is contaminated with that mutated gene. And so about 11% of the population of dairy cattle have the A1. Another 30 to 35% seem to be A1, A2. And then the balance, 40% are A2 or so. So that's kind of how we've seen it. Once we started to understand this and then select our cows and now only buy semen from bulls that are carrying the A2 gene that they got from both of their parents, then it's pretty simple to just keep mating, A2 animals to A2 animals, and you always get an A2 offspring. And we've been doing that for a lot of years, and there was no market to sell the A2 milk into, at least the organic
Oh, froze.
Oh no.
version.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Back.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry, it just froze for a second.
Oh, okay. I heard you guys say something. All right.
Yeah.
I was just saying that 8 years ago we decided to start our own brand. That's the Alexandre Family Farm. A2 milk, and it was really simply because nobody else was selling A2 milk, organic version of it. And so we just thought that consumers have a right to get to it and should have that option. And so a lot of consumers appreciate what we're doing, and really what we've allowed them to do is bring dairy products back into their diet. And that feels really good. So it's a lot of fun to do.
That's fascinating. And on a personal note, my wife later, we're both kind of 50 or thereabouts, discovered that she was having a lot of digestive issues with milk. And this is new to me. So I'm going to be talking with her. We pretty much just, went away to all plant-based milk substitutes. That's really fascinating. And it does make a lot of sense because it's a protein versus a carbohydrate, which, you can get allergic to a carbohydrate, but it's usually proteins.
Yeah, so exactly. No, you're excellent point, Matt. And I'll just say this is very similar story to wheat, and the gluten in wheat is your wife is very normal, and we hear these stories all the time that people have been off dairy for a long time, and then they try our products, and they're 90% of the time they're good with our milk, which is really fun. It's exciting. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago with a guy from Canada. He's carrying his lactate pills in his pocket.
That's my wife.
He drank some of our milk the day before and didn't have issues. And I was like, yeah, cool, dude. You can now throw that whole bottle away. And it's here's the little test. If your wife can't eat pizza or can't eat cheese, things like that, there is no lactose in cheese.
Right.
There's no lactose in pizza. And so it's clearly the protein that's the problem, not the sugars, not the carbohydrates.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that, Blake. And I think my wife's going to be really excited too. So
Cool.
Thanks.
Moving on, our next question is more aimed to you, Dr. Grisham. How do you think the rise of A2 cow milk and organic farming practices can reshape the future of sustainable agriculture and dairy production?
Well, I think on the A2 side, if it allows people to enjoy dairy products, then that's just from a market perspective, you've got a larger market. On the organic side, I think, I mean, for me, I'm an entomologist. Okay, just to be clear, I'm not an animal. I'm a six-legged animal scientist. But I do know a little bit about ruminants, and I can tell you, ruminants did not evolve eating seeds. I mean, I'm sure they got seeds occasionally, and of course, when we feed them grain and soy, that's what we're feeding them. And so I think getting cows back on a grass diet is really important from an animal welfare standpoint, but I suspect also a human health standpoint, because if you think about it, if you feed something a suboptimal diet, it's probably not going to perform as well.
Yeah.
But I think, Blake made the point of carbon sequestration and just increasing organic matter and moving animals back to pasture and healthy pasture that's managed in a regenerative organic way, I think is really beneficial. And the organic matter, I mean, beyond right now, it seems like folks are really fixated on carbon sequestration. But there are so many benefits to getting more organic matter into your soil. And Blake brought up some of them. So water holding capacity is one. And of course, living in a drought prone state like California, that should be on everybody's mind. But also holding on to nutrients, improving nutrient cycling, which translates to less downstream impact. So if you're on a watershed, if your soil is absorbing all the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients that are part of your system, they don't get into the watershed where they cause a lot of problems. And then air quality as well. I mean, if you're keeping nitrogen locked into the system and having less methane or nitrous oxide move out of the soil, that's really important from a global warming standpoint, because those are really potent greenhouse gases. But Blake is really the expert, though. So, maybe you can tell me if I went astray there, Blake, or if there's something big I'm missing.
Actually, no, I think you did an excellent job answering it in general. I think we've gotten away from the question. I don't really remember the detail of the question right now, but I like your answer.
Thanks. Yeah, and I guess maybe I didn't talk about animal welfare, but again, cows come from bison, and they evolved roaming free on grasslands, eating a diversity of plants, and largely the green matter, not the reproductive structures like the seeds and stuff. And so, I would just think that cows are probably going to be, quote unquote, happier if they're experiencing their natural environment versus, being confined in a barn and eating a lot of things that really they didn't, as a species, they didn't grow up eating.
I would add to the concept that when we launched our brand, we kind of wanted to be an alternative for the alternative milks. And so, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the almond milks and silk milk and other things were coming along and getting quite popular pretty fast. And, dairy farmers were like, young mothers should not be raising their kids on, I'm just going to say dirty water with almond dust in it. It's not, nature's most perfect food. That's for darn sure. And of course, I believe as a dairy farmer that milk is for both children and adults. And so we wanted to be an alternative to get people back to real dairy. And we did that through being a full fat company, which is bringing all the nutritional goodness from the grasses and the forages that the cow will eat. We have both a version where some of our cows eat grain and some of them are 100% grass fed, meaning no grain ever. And so those milks are similar, but slightly different. The green label, which is 100% grass fed, has an omega-6 to 3 ratio of 1:1, which is just literally perfect. And a little more higher nutrients, phytonutrients and whatnot. And then our 6% butterfat full fat milk is more loaded with fat, but yet those cows get a little bit of grain, so the omega-6 ratio is maybe 3:1 instead of with the perfect 1:1. But it's still a better nutritional package than I think a lot of our competition on the shelves, and people really appreciate it. And so that's what we make our yogurts out of, both products, yogurts, kefirs, chocolate milk, and a few other things, eggnog.
So curious when you talk about a whole fat milk. Again, I'm not a dairy expert, but what I do
Yeah.
know in larger, co-op dairies and stuff, if you're buying whole milk from one of those, so say like Dean Foods or something like that, you're not really getting whole milk. You're getting skim milk that's had fat back added to it,
Yes.
to get to whatever percentage they're advertising. So is what you're talking about, is it then milk that's direct from the cow and not separated and manipulated, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, generally. So I'll start with our 100% grass-fed milk. It's our green labeled bottle. That milk is just whatever the cows gave us that week. And so all
Okay.
we do is pasteurize it and put it in a bottle. So we
Nice.
don't standardize it. We don't set the point of butterfat at a predetermined number. And then there's a little QR code on the bottle. You snap that into your phone. Look, it takes you to our website where you put in the date that's on the bottle, and then our website will tell you what the butterfat was that week and protein and whatnot. And so it's whatever the cows gave us that week, and it might range from 4.1 to 4.9, I've seen. And so that's the butterfat content of our milk. And then our red label milk, we decided to start with whatever the cows gave us and then add a little extra butterfat to bring it up to 6%, to give the consumers an option that they've never had. So it's a rich, creamy milk. And once you get used to it, it makes others taste like water.
Something I found amazing with, because before I came back to California, and we lived in Michigan, there were some raw milk, small dairies around us, and we would occasionally get raw milk that was all grass fed. And what amazed me was how seasonally the flavor of the milk would change so much based on what the cows were eating. So I think that's really cool to hear that on your green label you've got that. That representation of the cow's relationship with the environment, because I don't know, at first it was a little weird to us, but very rapidly it was pretty neat, because there was this seasonality to something that, again, from a mass market standpoint, is so standardized that New Jersey, California, Florida, it doesn't matter if you go and buy a half gallon of I'll just continue to pick on Dean's Foods, I guess, big dairy giant. It's going to taste the same. I mean, there's no local character to it. So it's really cool to hear that you all are expanding into that market space and giving folks these new choices. It's really awesome.
Yeah. And we literally labeled it on our bottle as a seasonal full flat, right?
Awesome.
Because it does change with the seasons, let's just say winter and summer. And primarily because the cows eat a lot of grass all spring, summer, and fall, and then the grass slows way down in the winter, and then they're eating stored hay or haylage, and it's just slightly different feed stuff with a little more acid in it because it got fermented or whatever, and of course that flavors the milk slightly. And so that's food as God intended, is all I can say. And the other thing, just as you pick on the larger companies, so whole milk across the country, the standardization is 3.25% butterfat.
Right.
So we're almost double that with our 6%, and way above it with our grass fed as well. And in California, whole milk is defined as 3.5% butterfat.
Okay.
So not a big difference, but there's just more stuff in our milk. There's more butterfat, there's more protein, there's more solids, other solids, which would be minerals and sugars, and our cows have been selected to really make I guess healthy milk that's nutrient dense with a lot of integrity from forages, from pasture. And we've selected cows from all over the world that have the ability to do that. So we don't just milk U.S. Holsteins or Jerseys. Our cows are crossbreeds, and our favorite breed, while we're on it, is Fleck V from Germany. We've been using that breed for 7 years, or 11 years. And before that, it was all New Zealand crosses. And so our cows are just a collage of different colors, and and the kind of cows that are comfortable going out and walking a lot every day and working for a living.
That's great. So how about, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
asking
it's
all kinds of
okay.
questions, but how about your pasture management? So, and your feed ration. So you mentioned that you do feed a little bit of grain to some for one of your brands. Do you raise your own feed in addition to your pasturage, and what do you do for your pasturage?
Yeah, so we let's just start with pasture. My family's been growing grass and pasture for 100 years in Ferndale, and so it was my great grandfather started the farm. Even when we just sold milk into the conventional world, we were still grazing, and our whole area kind of tends to do that. So we're not large scale California farmers. We're certainly on the small side in the region, and that's the way the dairy business has evolved in my world. We've gotten larger now as we've been pursuing specialty markets with organic and now the A2 organic with our own brand. And so yeah, a lot of what we do is focused on grass and pasture. And at the end of the year, our cows probably ate 60 to 70% of their annual diet from grass out in the field growing, green growing grass. And we're blessed with a 12-month green grass season here, and very mild climate here on the coast, the north coast of California. And then the cows, so two of our herds we don't feed any grain to at any point in their life, and then three of our herds still get grain. Not a lot of grain, probably half of what a normal farm would feed. So we're feeding somewhere around 12, 15 pounds of grain per day of their 50 pounds of feed that they're eating. And it's really to have this density of carbohydrates for them. It's easier for those girls to, stay a little healthier fat-wise, body condition-wise, so they can put on weight a little easier. Sometimes being on a pasture diet for animals is a little too much protein, not enough carbohydrates. And so, getting sugars to grow in the grass is a trick, and selecting genetics for that is important.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, hearing your guys' conversation was really fascinating to me. I learned a lot.
Yes.
But now we have a little game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the game is A2 or A not. So we will be testing your guys' knowledge on A2 organic milk. So basically, how this will work is I will give you a statement, and if you guess it's true, you'll say A2, and if it's false, you say A not.
Okay.
Do you guys both understand?
Are you keeping score between Blake and I?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little competition.
Well, I'm in trouble.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question we have is all organic milk is automatically A2. So is this A2 or A not? What do we think?
Well, A not.
Yeah.
Is what I would
A
say.
not.
Yeah.
Say.
I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next statement. People who are lactose intolerant may still be able to drink A2 milk.
Ooh. That's a tricky one.
That is a trick.
Because if it actually is the lactose, then it would be an A not. But if it's not the lactose, then it might be an A2. So I don't know if I can answer that one.
Yeah.
Like, do you agree?
Yeah, it is slightly tricky question, but 90% of the time it's going to be an A not. Because most people don't go to a doctor to diagnose their lactose intolerance.
Right.
They just pick it up from a friend because it's trendy.
Mhm. Well, on here we have A2, but honestly, I trust you guys more.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I'm gonna guess that it is A not.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Next
both could
statement.
be true. So got it.
Okay. So the next statement is A2 milk only comes from one special breed of cows.
I just learned that today.
Yeah.
So I'm saying A not.
A not.
A not, correct. Okay. A2 organic milk can still contain antibiotics.
Word that one again for me, please.
A2 organic milk can still contain antibiotics.
A not.
So, yeah, A not for synthetic antibiotics, but oh, we've got a morning show now.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the final one, Alexandre Family Farms was the first organic dairy to be certified 100% A2 in the US.
I'm going to say A2 on that one, but it's a guess.
Mr. Alexander, what do you think? What do you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna say A2.
Yeah.
Correct. You guys are both correct.
We were the first one organic brand on the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I learned a lot today on this episode, especially because I drink oat milk. I will
Yeah.
now be switching to
I might
A2.
toss my oat milk when I get back.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to be switching to A2.
Good
But-
girls. That's great.
You know, one thing with the plant
Glad to
milks,
hear it.
what I've been shocked at is that the FDA allows them to be called milks. I mean, I know in the dairy industry that's been talked about a lot, but it should be juice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
juice. I mean, it's like drinking orange juice or apple juice. There's nothing wrong with that, but call it what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coffee and juice.
The dairy industry screwed up on allowing that to happen. I don't remember anyone asking our opinion, but that should never have happened. And it's kind of funny too, though. But we've come out with Organic Valley came out with grass milk, right? And so 100% grass-fed milk. And so that's kind of on the flip side, kind of saying the same thing wrong.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Alexander and Dr. Grisham, for being here with us today. Looking ahead, A2 Milk is transforming the dairy industry, bringing new challenges like educating consumers like myself about its benefits and finding ways to balance the costs. So thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you viewers at home enjoyed and come back next podcast to learn more about the organic industry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Blake. It was really educational. I learned a lot, and I'm going to be running home to my wife and saying, "Hey, we got so
Cool.
yeah."
Well, you're welcome, and it's my pleasure, and I enjoy doing this stuff, and it's fun to tell our story. So thank you.
Program funding for the Organic Odyssey was provided by the California Certified Organic Farmers Foundation, as well as the Transition to Organic Partnership Program. The show was created by Matt Grisham, the talent coordinator and resident organic expert, as well as Moses Mike, the faculty production lead. The Organic Odyssey is a production of the AGC 225 class called Digital Communications and Agriculture. The student team that produced the show included Natalie Eubanks and Savannah Taylor, the directors, hosts Madison Jasso and Ava Rose, storyboard editing by Avery Mulerath, and the technical team, Isabella Anderson, Vincent Biller, Vivian Kempora, Kendall Cook, Callie Granis, Carolyn Janes, Zach Collar, Emmy Lynn Marrow, Jack Oliver Roa, Sarah Purcell, Mason Riley, and Holly Rudnick. The guests for this episode included Blake Alexandre and Matt Grisham. The Organic Odyssey is a digital media collaboration between the Agricultural Education and Communications Department and the Grimm Family Center for Organic Production and Research at Cal Poly. These credits were read by Chelsea Ann. Thanks for listening.